Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. My name is Eric. I will be your humble host this evening. I'm joined as always by Corey and Evan. How are you fellas doing?
Humble host. Oh boy. It's
maybe
not humble when you call yourself humble.
Maybe not so humble, but I'm the guy doing the job. I'm not going to say I'm the best guy for the job, but I'm the guy doing the job today.
Well, we all know who the best guy for the job is. That'd be
Scott Hansen, clearly, yeah. I mean, duh.
I like how we didn't actually plan that. We just, we're on the same wavelength.
It's nice when we have moments that feel scripted, but they're not, because we don't script anything. If we did, we'd probably be a lot better than we are. But anywho's, we've got quite a bit to get to today. We've got some NBA shenanigans. The season's wrapping up this weekend, at least the regular season. Then before we get to the play-in games, and the NBA playoffs obviously start a little bit after that. Got some baseball stuff to go through, and the NFL released their schedule. Was that today or was that yesterday? I don't remember.
That's tonight at 8 o'clock.
Officially, it's tonight at 8 o'clock,
but we've had some leaks,
I think pretty much all the schedules have been leaked today, and the Week 1 schedule was released yesterday somehow. So who knows? But
we know some things that we can discuss a little bit as we get into it.
Yeah,
but we'll start with the NBA today. Yeah. I'm not going to do a full State of the League thing because the season's just about to end. We'll probably talk a lot more NBA as the playoffs get started, and it'll become more of a weekly segment just because it's the postseason and basketball needs to be talked about every week when the playoffs are going on. Even Evan and Corey agree with that because They might even watch some of it. I know Evan is very interested in these play-in games that'll be happening soon enough, so we'll have all of that ready for you guys next week. But we do have a couple of headlines to hit. Namely, let's start with the Washington Wizards, who have been playing really good basketball basically since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
They, according to this note on the stat sheet, which I didn't even really think about, but it's interesting, the Wizards are the only team that's not locked into a playoff spot or actually not a top 6 record. So anybody that's outside the play-in strata or eliminated, they're the only team among that group with a winning record. Which
at least in the Eastern Conference.
Then that makes total sense because normally the teams that stink continue to stink, but the Wizards are the exception to that. And I think a big part of the reason why they are playing as well as they are is because Russell Westbrook is healthy. Early in the season, he was dealing with the torn quad. He kind of downplayed it throughout the year, but everybody understands a torn quad is pretty detrimental to playing any type of sport. But he seems to be healthy now, and he's been on a tear, especially racking up the triple-doubles. And most importantly, his play has translated to the team winning a lot of games. Now, I know the Wizards have played a pretty soft schedule, but bad teams lose to other bad teams all the time. The fact that the Wizards are consistently beating the bad teams and have logged victories against some pretty decent ones speaks to how well they're playing. And I'm not going to be one of these clowns that gets on there and says, oh, nobody wants to see the Wizards in the first round because the Wizards are going to play in the play-in game against the Pacers. It's to be determined whether that'll be in D.C. or in Indianapolis. They may win that game, and they may even beat the Celtics, who are undermanned with Jaylen Brown out for the year, or the Charlotte Hornets, whoever they play. And then they're going to play either the Nets or the Bucks or the Sixers, and they're probably going to get swept. So that's the reality of the situation, but it's still been fun. And again, a big part of the reason why it's been fun is partially because Bradley Beal is in a scoring race with Stephen Curry for the scoring title this year, and because Russell Westbrook has been closing the gap and finally passed Oscar Robertson for career triple-doubles. Now, a lot of people have grown to dismiss the triple-double mainly because Westbrook's the one that's racking it up, and Westbrook's play hasn't always translated to championship-level aspirations for teams. But that doesn't change the fact that he set a record that was supposed to be unbreakable. I mean, Oscar Robertson set the triple-doubles record in like 1961 and then continued to add to it for another 12 years before he retired. So this mark has stood. This is sort of like Oscar Robertson was the Babe Ruth of triple-doubles. Like Babe Ruth set the record for home runs with like 19, and then he kept topping it.
It was like 100.
Yeah, I mean like for a season. Like a single season home run, so it's like he set the record with like 19, and then he had like 45, and then 54, and then 60 was the number that he topped out at. But he was so far ahead of the pack. It was the same thing with Oscar Robertson. You just didn't see players that could affect the game with assists, rebounds, and points the way he did. Because normally guards get the assists but don't get rebounds, and big men get the rebounds but don't get assists. So he was really one of one in that regards until Russell Westbrook came along and became that guy. So I think it's a pretty impressive achievement, and I think it's cool that he achieved it while he was in D.C.
Yeah, and the other thing is, a lot of the triple-doubles that he's been recording of late, in particular during these past 10 games, you mentioned earlier, they're the only team that's not 100% or basically locked into a playoff spot right now over the last 10 with a winning record. His triple-doubles during that span haven't felt forced. And to be fair, I don't watch a ton of professional basketball during the regular season. But I often felt like when he was in Oklahoma City, a lot of times all those triple-doubles that he was racking up were a result of him just kind of playing, me ball. It was all about him. He wanted to be the center of the show, and he was the one who wanted to have the ball in his hands in every single possession. And yes, obviously he's the point guard, but I mean, like, even after passing the ball off, he wanted to see it again. It just, I always felt like the triple-doubles were not a natural byproduct of him playing a good game. It was more of getting the triple-double for the sake of the triple-double. And if we happen to win too, then cool. But that's not really the point here. Whereas right now, it seems like he's playing much more for the Wizards to win, and the triple-doubles are still coming naturally through that process.
I think that I'm not going to sit there and agree that he was chasing triple-doubles at the detriment of his team or that he was prioritizing that. I think it's just the way that he plays basketball. It's such a strange style of play where he's so aggressive on the glass because we know he's a tremendous passer and he's great at pressuring defenses with his dribble, and we know that he dominates the ball. But I don't think that's necessarily because he's chasing stats. I think it's more because that's just how he has to play. And there are drawbacks to that. There's a reason why a lot of times I've said in the past that I don't think Russell Westbrook fits well with other really good players and other really good teams because he has to have the ball, and those guys are really good with the ball too. And so every time you take the ball out of their hands, you're sort of holding your own team back a little bit by emphasizing Russell Westbrook while he impacts the game in a different way. But I said at the beginning of the year when the Wizards got Russell Westbrook, I said this is a good fit because the Wizards are not a good team, and they don't have great players that can create and can create for others. They needed that. And with John Wall being a guy who's coming off of a severe injury, I thought this is a good fit because Westbrook stays tremendously healthy, and he's frankly a better player than John Wall because John Wall has similar attributes. He's very ball dominant. He's a great passer. He's good at driving to the hoop, but he can't shoot, and he doesn't do much off the ball. It's a similar profile. The defense is a little bit of definitely a big win for John Wall, but I would say that Russell Westbrook offensively did everything that Wall did, but quite a bit better.
And he's better at rebounding than John Wall as well.
Oh, sure, yeah, and that's always been a part of it is that a way that Westbrook creates offense is him getting the ball in his hands off of a miss helps create transition opportunities because I've talked about this before. In the NBA, teams are no longer chasing offensive rebounds because they don't want to risk getting caught behind the play and getting beat in transition. So they're sort of backing off. So teams have countered that a little bit by having their guard go for the rebound, and Westbrook is the best in the league at that. And so he gets on the glass, he gets the rebound, and he starts to break early to sort of counter that prevent transition defense type of style that teams have adopted.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise, the alternative is that your big man gets the rebound and has to make a pass before you actually start the transition. If you get
waste time, and that's too late. Now you're stuck playing half-court offense, which a lot of teams have very good half-court offenses, but transition is always optimal when you can make it happen.
Absolutely.
So, again, credit to Russell Westbrook for all of this. Again, I think that, like I've said before, his style of play dictates this more so than any type of selfishness, because the thing is, people point to their record, both in Oklahoma City and in Washington. When Russell Westbrook gets triple-doubles, the teams are really good, which makes sense because when one of the best players plays well, he's going to put up numbers in a specific kind of way. And Russell Westbrook's specific kind of way is to rack up triple-doubles. So when he plays well, he's a good player. The team wins games. So I don't think that there's anything negative about it. It's obviously not as important as a lot of people wanted it to be, and I think people have come around on that, but it's still really impressive.
I mean, I thought that Russell Westbrook was the type of player that, just jacked up a bunch of shots and hogged the ball. And like Corey said, it might not lead to a whole lot of team success. And I'm honestly surprised that the Wizards, who were just complete garbage for the past few years, now they're in the playoff conversation, and they're a very large chunk of this show. Like that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I mean, they've still got a losing record. They're still 5 games under 500, but they're like 3 games ahead of the Bulls with 5 games left or something like that.
Oh wow!
I think there's only 3 or 4 games left tops.
Oh, are they going to be missing some games? Because I know they've played 67 so far.
Well, actually, I don't know what the Wizards' situation with making them up are, but they might not even make all of them up if they don't have to, if everything is settled. But,
gotcha.
Because that's right. I did forget the Wizards did miss a lot of games because of COVID. Because Golden State only has 2 games left. I think the Lakers have 3. Most teams are down to 2 or 3. But if you're lagging behind, you have to make up some games. It's understandable that you would have 5 or so left. But we'll see what happens there. But it seems very unlikely the Wizards are going to fall out of the entire situation. That just seems highly unlikely. They look like they're pretty much locked into that 9-10 game. It's just a matter of where do they finish relative to the Pacers.
And sticking on the topic of the Wizards, we had some interesting stuff going on with Bradley Beal this week. We were talking about that on the chats yesterday.
Yeah, so the Wizards played the Pacers a few nights ago. The game went into overtime. Bradley Beal actually left the game early in the third quarter after he rolled his ankle, returned to the game, dropped 50, and then tweaked his hamstring and was forced out of the game. He couldn't play in overtime.
All of this was in the same game?
Yes. And then the Wizards somehow managed to pull out a win without Bradley Beal, who's their best player. We've been praising Russ, but Brad's the guy for the Wizards. But Westbrook put the team on his back for the overtime period and got the job done, and they won. But that resulted in some interesting conversation because, as we've mentioned a couple times on this show, Curry and Bradley Beal are chasing the scoring title, and it's really not that close at this point, given the fact that there's only a handful of games left. But it's close enough for it to be interesting. And so Beal dropping 50 did kind of put a little bit of pressure, if you care about that kind of thing, on Steph Curry to have a big game against Oklahoma City that night. And so Curry came out and scored 49 points, didn't even play the fourth quarter because the game was a blowout. He scored 49 points in 29 minutes, and his teammate Ken Bazemore, who sucks and isn't very good at basketball and is not particularly smart either, decided that he was going to pop wise, and he was lauding Curry for scoring 49 points in 29 minutes, which absolutely you should do. That's really impressive. That's an amazing night. But then he says something along the lines of, you got people tweaking hamstrings trying to keep up, implying that Bradley Beal injured himself because he was chasing points trying to keep up with Steph Curry, which is an uncalled for remark. Somebody just suffered an injury. He was clearly not happy about it because it compromised his team's chances of winning. They managed to pull it out anyway, but still, there's no way Bradley Beal hurt himself because he was trying to win the scoring title. He was trying to win the game, because that's what the Wizards need right now, is to win games, to position themselves the best way possible to survive and advance throughout the play-in weekend and in the potential postseason series that they may have if they are able to win enough games and get to the actual tournament. So it was a little bit insulting and definitely uncalled for, an unnecessary shot. And so Bradley Beal, he went after Kent Bazemore pretty heavy on Twitter. He tweeted at him 7 times. His wife got in on the act, basically called him a lame, called him a bum, and accused Steph Curry of peeping Brad's box scores to see what he needs to do to keep pace in the scoring race, which, again, I don't think is real because, again, Curry's team is in a similar situation. They're trying to position themselves in the play-in scenario where maybe they can be in the 7-8 matchup and just win one game to get into the tournament. I don't think he's all that concerned about the scoring title, although I'm sure it's somewhat on their minds because everybody thinks about things like that, but it's not first priority for either of these guys.
I mean, Bradley Beal should be glad he's in the same sentence as Stephen Curry. Like, Steph Curry's an all-time great. Bradley Beal is, not. So
he's a pretty great player, but
yeah,
but you're right. He's not an all-time great. At least not yet. The
Hall of Fame red carpet for him. He didn't reinvent the game of basketball.
No, he definitely did not do that.
Yeah, I don't know how great Bradley Beal is in terms of the all-time great status, but he's certainly a very good player. He's one of the 20 best players in the NBA. And who knows, at the end of the day, he might end up with a Hall of Fame career. I'm not going to say he's not because, he's playing great basketball. This season that he's had is the type of season the Hall of Fame players have. That being said,
if Stephen Curry said tonight, like, you know what, I want to go play golf now. I'm done with basketball. He'd go to the Hall of Fame, 5 years from now?
3 years. NBA has 3 years, yeah.
Only 3 years?
Yep, only 3 years.
Yeah, it's an easy one. So
when he's done playing basketball, he'll probably end up going to the Golf Hall of Fame, too.
Well, we'll see about that. But I think that has gotten lost on a lot of Wizards fans is just because these two are competing for a scoring title doesn't mean that they're equally good.
Remember when Wall and Beal were trying to say they were the best backcourt in the NBA while Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry were, I guess, in their prime, so to speak?
Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson are probably the greatest backcourt of all time. Yeah, there's never been a better one than that. So
yeah, but Wall and Beal were saying they were better at the same time, which was
that was
a silly thing to say.
Off base, to say the least. But so, anywho's, we've got some other news regarding other star players. LeBron James was supposed to return last night against the Knicks, but he didn't. He decided to sit an extra game. I think this was a little bit strategic in case LeBron came out and sucked and they lost to the Knicks because the Knicks are actually good somehow. But the Lakers won anyway because Anthony Davis played very well, and LeBron is now set to return tonight against the Houston Rockets, which is a little bit easier of a warm-up opponent to kind of get your feet back under you. And even aside from any type of mostly joking accusations of LeBron ducking the Knicks play very physical basketball. Tom Thibodeau likes to get after it, and he likes to beat you up a little bit. Probably not the best opponent to play right out of the gate coming off of your ankle injury. So it makes a little bit of sense to give him an extra night off. But
well, if we want to continue giving him a little bit of a fake hard time for, as you said, ducking the Knicks, right? If anything, the fact that they ended up winning that game might put a little more pressure on it, because what if they end up losing to Houston, a supposedly easier opponent, with LeBron in the lineup?
They're not going to lose to the Rockets. The Rockets are tanking. John Wall's out for the year. They're toast. Like, the Rockets have no chance to beat the Lakers. It's done.
Now that you've said it, I think we've guaranteed that the Rockets will win this game.
I thought John Wall was already. When did he come back from the Achilles injury?
He was back at the start of the season.
Oh, okay.
He was there day one. He played.
Now what happened to him?
I think he's actually fine. They're just tanking.
like Chris Davis.
Yeah, it's gone. I think he did
having his back.
Yeah, somewhere that's not Sarasota. We don't know where he is, nor do we care. That type of thing. I think Wall did suffer an injury, and they felt there's no point in actually trying to get back on the court because we're tanking, and who cares? It's crater for Cade, so that's the plan for the Rockets. But they stink, and I don't think the Lakers are going to have any issue beating them tonight, no matter what. But it is interesting because when you think about the Lakers, you figured, okay, these guys get back, LeBron comes back, and they'll have a little bit of time to sort of get back into game shape before they're really threatened by somebody. That's not going to be the case for them because they're going to probably still end up in the play-in tournament, which means they're going to be playing winner-go-home style games almost. Maybe not in the first one, but if they lose that one and they're playing the Grizzlies or the Spurs in a winner-take-all game, that's high-level pressure. And if they win that, then they have to play the top seed. So they're not going to get a series against a team that they can beat even if LeBron's not all there. So they're going to have to get ready to go quick because they're not in a position to just chill through the first round like they thought they probably would be at the beginning of the year when they figured they'd be among the top teams in the Western Conference.
This is kind of giving me a college bowl game vibe in the sense that, like, you know, some teams that just barely miss out on the college football playoff, they go to the whatever bowl, and like they're just, you know, going through the motions or whatever. Whereas, you know, the team that they're playing might be a group of 5 team, and that team is hungry and wants to take them down.
Yep.
So, like, if you're a Lakers team and you expected, we were, you know, preseason coronated number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and all of a sudden you fall to 7 or 8 or something like that, and you're going against a Stephen Curry led Warriors team that's on fire, or a Grizzlies team. I don't even know anything about the Grizzlies or the Spurs. Like, you know, they might take the Lakers out. So, you know, the Lakers, they need to actually win some games if they even want to compete for the championship. This Lakers team, in my opinion, they have no business being down this far in the playoff seeding. Like, what are y'all doing? Spend all this money, you have all these famous people, and then 7th seed in the West? Come on.
Yeah, the big problem with the Lakers was a lot of people thought that their fortunes would turn around when Anthony Davis returned because the rest of the Lakers were actually playing pretty decently for a stretch when both guys were out. They went 6-4 in a 10-game stretch, which is good enough. I mean, at this point, just tread some water and you'll be fine. But when Anthony Davis returned but LeBron wasn't back, they had like a stretch where they lost 7 of 8 games. And that cratered them right down to the 7th spot and puts them in a very dangerous position where it looked like they were going to be able to hold somewhere between the 4 and the 5. And if they were a 5 seed, they can drop the 4 seed pretty easily if they're at full strength. Or even if they're not, that can be a tune-up series before they have to play someone like the Jazz or the Suns. But if they have to play one of those teams right out of the chute, ooh, that could be trouble. I mean, I don't trust the Suns or the Jazz. I don't think either of those teams is legit. I feel like neither one of them is a championship contender, but that's still not a team you want to face right straight out of the chute on May 22nd. So that's all we'll talk about the NBA for now. We'll have more stuff next week as the playing game takes place and as we get ready for the playoffs, as I already said before. So move to baseball. We'll start with the Orioles. Orioles had an unpleasant game yesterday where John Means pitched great, and then the National League forced him to not pitch anymore because the rules are dumb. And as a result, the bullpen had to hold it down for 3 innings, and they could only make it through 2 before they gave up the lead. And
oh, you guys there? All right, so you guys are both muted right now. So give me 1 second. Another Skype issue. It seems to be a weekly occurrence for us, but I'll be right back in here. Let's see here. Apologize for this, everybody. Just a quick issue, quick resolve, and we should be back.
Okay.
You guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
All right. We've been here the whole time.
Yep. Okay. So, right when I told you that we were having issues, that's where we were. So, talking about John Means and them having to take him out early and all that.
Yeah, so that happened. The Orioles couldn't hold the lead. Cesar Valdez pitched like crap in the 9th. And a 1-0 game quickly turned into a 2-1 Mets victory. So,
I think
Evan,
it was 3-2.
Oh, was it really? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Orioles did get a second run
Yeah.
on some.
I know
stuff.
it's amazing the Orioles score 2 runs in a game, because they didn't do that today.
Craziest thing about that is that Patrick Mazeika, the rookie for the Mets, who drove in the winning run in the walk-off, he now has 2 walk-off RBIs in 4 career games without a single hit, at least through yesterday's game. I don't know if he did anything in today's game, but he had 0 career hits. He's the first player in Major League Baseball history to have 2 walk-off RBI before his first career hit.
Well, congratulations to him. I'm still a little salty over last night's result. Well, first of all, let me get this out of the way. Whoever thinks you can never, ever convince me that pitchers still hitting is a good thing. You will never convince me of this, not for 1 second. I know it was cool that fat 40-year-old Bartolo Colon hit a home run once 5 years ago, right? But, that's one thing that happened one time that has nothing to do with today.
If Shohei Ohtani can do it, all these pitchers should be able to do it. And that's not a slight at Shohei. It's not saying like, geez, he sucks if he can do it. No, it's more just if a guy can be that good at pitching and also develop the ability to hit well, all pitchers should be able to develop the ability to put the bat on the ball.
This is the first guy that's done it.
Foolishness, Corey.
This is the first guy that's done it in 100 years, man. Come on.
The first guy that's done it a little bit in 100 years, right? Just a little taste. He's been pitching and hitting for like 2 weeks.
He's been
the first
damn
time
good at both.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry that Shohei Ohtani's just roll through every team's clubhouse at all 9 positions. Like what? No, that makes no sense. I'm sorry. I can't with that. Anyway, Taijuan Walker today for the Mets had a brutally awful at bat where he just stood there with the bat on his shoulder and took 3 pitches right down the middle and went to go sit back down. So that's just thrilling entertainment that people pay lots of money to see.
It's amusing me.
Yeah, just thrilling stuff. The strategy and the double switches. What are you even talking about? That's crap. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with
You
that.
just don't get it.
I get it just fine. Okay? I think I get it really well to know that this stuff has to go.
Yeah,
Orioles squeezed home a run yesterday. Ooh. So fun.
Yeah, it was quite a delight.
Yeah. So my issue is that I feel like Brandon Hyde might have overmanaged himself. Once the Orioles got 2 runners on with nobody out in the 6th inning, or maybe it's the 7th inning. Yeah, it was the 7th inning. And then the next guy made an out, and then the number 8 batter, Pedro Severino, was intentionally walked to load the bases against the pitcher spot with 1 out. And so Brandon Hyde decides to pinch hit for John Means, who's, far and away the Orioles' best pitcher. But, so he pinch hits DJ Stewart, who sucks. And then the Mets decide to make a pitching change. So then he pinch hits again and goes with Pat Valaika, who also sucks. Pat Valaika did drive in a run. But, I feel like, the way this team's been hitting, run prevention is more important than run scoring. So, as crazy as it sounds, I would have let John Means hit for himself. I doubt he would have hit into a double play. If he strikes out, then, we have bases loaded with Cedric Mullins rather than, whatever ends up happening. So, I don't know. I feel like he was kind of in a no-win situation, and I'm just irritated that, number one, pitchers have to hit in these stupid games, and then, it just didn't work out. Also, Queens, New York has been a house of horrors for the Orioles for the last 60 years. Ever since the World Series in 1969, the Orioles go to Queens and lose all the games.
Yeah, what was particularly puzzling about Hyde's decision-making was the fact that they got the first 2 runners on, and he had Rio Ruiz lay down a sacrifice bunt.
Yes, the bunt. Oh, bunts. I hate bunts.
Knowing full well that Severino was the 8th hitter, and now they're definitely going to walk him to get to the pitcher's spot. So he kind of put himself in that position where you walked yourself into a trap where you had to decide, do I pull out my pitcher who has been dealing, who's only thrown like 70 pitches, so he could realistically have gotten the Orioles another 2 innings worth of work, for one opportunity to hit a sac fly, to play for 1 run, but then I have to rely on my not-so-great bullpen for 3 innings to hold it down. It was not a good choice, but but he put himself in a position to have to make that tough choice, and I thought that was poor performance by him. But I agree fully, and Corey's sitting here saying because one guy in a century can hit and pitch, that means that everybody should do it. I guess Sammy Baugh could kick and he could throw the football, so I guess Aaron Rodgers should be kicking field goals too, or else he
Justin
sucks.
Tucker, you're fired. Lamar's the kicker now.
So apparently that's what we do here, where we say we take one guy when we could have easily just say, hey, this crap slows the game down and ruins the product. Let's change it. And instead we say, hey, let's keep this stupid archaic crap in the game solely for the benefit of.
Well, no, see, because in football we now have specialists who do the kicking. Like we've added players so that we can do that. We don't need that in baseball.
Yeah, actually, one league decided we did. So it's called a hitter that's designated.
I'm hoping that makes it clearly obvious that I'm trolling you guys.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm aware, but I'm gonna play into it because that's what we do here.
Well, I'm irritated about this.
Speaking of bad products, we'll get to Corey's Yankees in a little bit. I'm not saying they're the bad product.
Yes,
bad
you
product
are.
Is
or the Orioles.
Bad product is Wade Miley throwing a no-hitter.
Oh.
Because Wade Miley's a terrible pitcher, and the fact that he threw a no-hitter tells me that this is happening too often at this point. The fact that this clown could go out there and get 27 guys out before any of them got a hit.
So wait, do we want better pitching or do we want more juiced balls? Like, which is it? Pick a side.
We want more balls in play. That's what we want.
Yes, that's what we want. Well, my point is, this season stinks. And I'm not saying that because I'm salty because the Orioles aren't good. This is a bad product right now in baseball. The league average is 234. That is a joke. That is an absolute travesty that the baseball's OPS is at 100-year lows.
Maybe
That's despicable.
pitchers should hit more often. So, got to get those bunts.
All right, so here's my thoughts on that, because setting aside the fact that I'm more into baseball this year than I have been in the past. That's mostly because we're playing fantasy baseball this year. It's not so much to do with the product, right? Eric, just a moment ago, you talked about how the Orioles manager kind of put himself in the position where he had to make a decision about John Means, right, in that 7th inning. Major League Baseball has put themselves in this situation through the process of juicing balls, allowing home runs to become a bigger part of the game, basically disincentivizing players from becoming good hitters rather than purely power hitters, and either strikeout or home run kind of guys, and allowing that to become very widespread and prevalent within the game. Certainly not ubiquitous. There are still players who hit for average, but they're much fewer and further between than they have been at any point in history. And so when you come into a situation where, like, okay, we're hitting way too many home runs, this is getting absolutely absurd, we need to unjuice the balls. Well, it's not going to be an immediate, reaction for the players to be like, oh, they're unjuicing the balls, we're probably not going to be able to hit home runs as much, we need to start working on hitting for average. No, they're still going to be using the same approaches at the plate that they've been using for years now, where you're going to be trying to swing for the fences. The problem is the balls are flying a little bit less far, which means more of them end up staying in the air and staying in the park where outfielders get to them, which leads to more outs, lower averages. As long as baseball sticks with this, keeps the balls unjuiced, eventually, I hope and I think that it will start to right itself and batters will start to make the adjustment and return to a little bit more of a hit for average approach.
I don't think that's sufficient, though, because the bigger issues are the fact that the pitching is too good. And so historically, when the pitching has outpaced the hitting, Major League Baseball has tinkered with the mound. They've lowered it to make the hitters have a better shot at actually being able to hit the damn ball. Another problem is the shift. The reality is that balls in play are resulting in fewer hits than normal as well.
Sure.
BABIP has dropped quite a bit because of this prevalence of the shift. And frankly, I'm not all that attached to the shift. They can get rid of that tomorrow, and I wouldn't care one bit.
Yeah, I would be okay with
no
that.
Reason not to.
I don't. I've always been a little bit annoyed generally by the shift. Now, there has been that part of me that's like, okay, well, if you're such a good hitter, like learn how to beat the shift, learn how to go opposite field, that kind of stuff. But I'm not attached to it. I'd be just as fine with us getting rid of the shift altogether. The other thing is, if they wanted to back the mound up by a few inches, like maybe even 6 inches, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. Because as much as there's just the whole tradition, like we got to keep everything as it is, otherwise I've gotten past the whole grave. We have statistics like WAR and things like that allow you to control for league average and all that kind of stuff that allows you to still compare across eras. We don't need to be married the way that we have been in so many ways to the ways of the past and to keeping everything exactly as it is. I'm not too worried about that anymore. Not to mention backing up the mound, even by as little as 3 to 6 inches, would also make it that little bit safer for pitchers, because on those comebackers, they have that little extra reaction time, just as the hitters do, to get their glove up and protect themselves.
That brings us back to Wade Miley, whose most notable achievement as an Oriole was getting hit by back-to-back line drives in the first inning of a game.
Oof.
Yes, like just rockets. Like, if you made him miss the ball a little bit, if you missed the bat head some, you wouldn't be getting drilled. I feel like with baseball, you want more balls in play, so I think you should unjuice the ball, and also think the mound needs to be tweaked, maybe lowering it some more, moving it back. You have to do something. The whole do nothing and hope for different results doesn't work and has never worked. So we're gonna need the DH in the National League for reasons I just explained to everybody, and gonna have to tweak the mound a little bit. We just want more balls in play and more action. I would also like a pitch clock. I really like the rule that one of the minor leagues was doing about limiting the number of pickoff attempts. I was looking at a bit of today's game, and I think Matt Harvey tried to pick off Francisco Lindor like 6 times. Like, oh my God. It's just a whole bunch of nothing happening with that. So there's no bad ideas, right? There's only stuff that just doesn't work out how you think it will. So I'm open to anything. And I think Major League Baseball should be open to trying stuff and seeing what happens.
One last note on the shift. I used to have the attitude of, well, hit the ball to the opposite field if they're going to shift on you. But the problem is the pitching, like I said, is really, really good. And you can pitch to contact in a certain location. If somebody throws you a down and in fastball, you've got to pull that pitch. There's no way to try to hit that opposite field that's going to work. So that's how pitchers attack you at that point, when they know I've got 3 defenders on that side of the field. So there's not really a solution for the hitter at that point. He's at the mercy of the pitcher. And if the pitcher misses his spot, sure, he can take it to the opposite field. But again, I don't see any reason why you can't have a rule saying 2 infielders on one side of second base, 2 infielders on the other. That's it. That's the tweet. I think that is sufficient to handling that issue as well. It's just another part of it, though, is, Corey, you mentioned that hitters are using the launch angle as a response to the balls being juiced. But that's been going on since well before that. The emphasis on the home run has existed since Moneyball. So I don't really think that's going to change the hitter's approach. You have to incentivize opportunities to actually get hits when you put the ball in the field of play versus the other option, which is, hey, we only can hit the ball over the fence or else there's no way we're going to get on base because they've positioned themselves to get us out as efficiently as possible to the point where we can't do it.
I mean, swinging for the fences, I don't know if game theory is the right word or whatever, but like you want as many cracks as possible at the big money. So hitting a home run's the most efficient way to score a run rather than trying to get 3 singles in a row. So, this is why they shoot so many 3-pointers in the NBA, because 3 is more than 2. You don't need an Ivy League degree or some sort of analytical genius sitting in a lair somewhere to figure that out. So like you want to score as many runs as possible, and hitting home runs is the easiest way to do that. That being said, makes for a really boring game to watch if everybody hits a home run or strikes out. So I think I'm against banning the shift. I am. I feel like you should be allowed to. You have to have a pitcher and you have to have a catcher, but the other 7 players should be allowed to stand wherever they want. If you want to have them all in the outfield, then fine. If you want to have them all at first base, then fine. But probably banning the shift. What?
What is that noise?
Don't worry about that.
Is that the Oscars music? Because I'm talking too much.
No, that was not what that was. But
okay. Well, anyway, I think banning the shift would result in more balls in play. I just wish they didn't have to do that.
I agree, because I do like the idea of teams being able to position themselves how they want, but this has happened in every sport. Football has rules with what you're allowed to do on both sides of the ball and how you have to line up. Basketball does as well. They have the illegal defense rules that you can't be in the paint. Yes,
Basketball does, but football doesn't really have rules about where defenders can line up. That's all offensive players.
The point being, there is structure that requires certain players to be lined up a certain way. So,
in the offensive backfield, for example.
Yes, and I'm not talking strictly defense here. I'm talking rules have been put in place that say I can't have, 7 linemen and one of them is off the line of scrimmage or whatever. There's nothing wrong with instituting rules, structuring the game, saying players have to be in a certain place where they line up. It's not some blasphemous idea.
I mean, in the late 70s, on defense, you used to be able to grab receivers all the way down the field, and they said no touching in full contact football. So,
yes, they did.
Yeah.
So anyway, as we've gotten done crapping on the sport of baseball, but we're calling it like it is, we'll move on to some other unfortunate news. The San Diego Padres are dealing with multiple cases of COVID-19, including their superstar Fernando Tatis, along with Jerks and Profar. This is just a reminder, again, we've said it time and time again, the pandemic is not over, and this is still the reality that we live in. So for all of you out there that aren't vaccinated or don't plan on getting vaccinated, for your own benefit, you should probably consider being more careful, and you should probably consider getting vaccinated. There's my TED Talk. If you guys have anything else you want to add, you have the floor.
Well, I mean, the Yankees are feeling the effects of this as well. So we have 7 confirmed cases right now of COVID in the clubhouse, 3 coaches and 4 non-coach support staff. Gleyber Torres is out of tonight's game waiting for results on a test because he might have COVID. We don't know for sure yet. Out of those 7 confirmed cases, though, 6 of them have been asymptomatic, but all 7 of them have been vaccinated. They all got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's interesting.
Even if you've been vaccinated, there are still situations where you need to take certain precautions, in particular indoors. If you're around people who might not be vaccinated, it's still wise to take some precautions until we reach herd immunity as a society, or at least, whatever community you're in. It's a good idea just to continue to be careful and do all those things. But especially, it seems this is very anecdotal. It's, one clubhouse as far as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is concerned. it still seems like it's a pretty effective vaccine, very good at keeping people from getting seriously ill. Right, 6 of the 7 have been asymptomatic, but it is a little bit less efficacious than the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines.
Ooh, what a word!
It's I mean, that's a Dr. Fauci word.
Oh, okay.
So.
I mean, this is you're the English teacher on this show, so
If Dr. Fauci uses it, I'm assuming that it is a correct term.
okay. Just don't follow. If you ever asked to throw out a ceremonial first pitch, don't do it like he did, please.
That was not awesome.
I mean, Dr. Fauci's great and everything, but that first pitch was a doozy.
It was not good. Not good at all.
He's got other chickens that he's frying right now.
He's also like 79 years old, so it's tough to maintain some of those fine motor skills in your advanced age. So I'm willing to give him a pass for even being out there. In fact, the fact that I was so disappointed speaks to how impressive he is as far as his ability to stay in shape at that age. Because I figured, this guy will handle it fine. It was not fine. It was a disaster. That pitch sucked. just an awful pitch. So maybe do a little better. Practice for the next time if there is next time, Dr. Fauci. But moving on to the Oakland A's, who are considering relocation
for like time.
The 12th time, seemingly. Like just from Oakland, it seems. Like they moved from Philadelphia to Kansas City to Oakland, and now they might be moving again after talking about moving seemingly every other year over the last decade.
Well, I mean, with this situation, I don't think they're actually considering moving. I think they only put this out there to put pressure on the city of Oakland to approve their new stadium plan.
Major League Baseball told them to consider other relocation options.
Yeah, but this is only, it certainly feels like this is a big deal, but I don't think it's a big deal yet. I think this is just to put pressure on the city of Oakland to approve their new stadium plan, because when the Oakland Coliseum opened, back in the late '60s, it was state of the art. It was beautiful. It was modern for the time, a 2-sport facility. But now it's just a decaying ancient relic of a bygone era. Not to mention the sewage backups in the dugout, which is particularly unpleasant for any workplace, let alone Major League Baseball. The Raiders have moved out. So like I just don't think this is the A's are saying, hey, we're packing our stuff, we're headed out. Like it's more of a we might have to if the city of Oakland doesn't step up their game. Like it's just posturing. Like when the Falcons were trying to get their new stadium, they mentioned we might move to Los Angeles, and the Vikings did the same thing. Like everybody, like it's a whole lot of talk and no action at this point. We might get on here next week and be like, the A's are moving to wherever.
Anything to add, Corey?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Okay, well, that's good because now you're going to do all the talking because we're going to talk about your New York Yankees. How are they doing?
Oh, they've been pretty hot lately. They've won 14 of their last 20 games, back within 2 games of Boston. In fact, they're 8-10 over the last 10 games. Their pitching continues to be pretty good. They're top 3 in strikeouts, thanks in large part to our bullpen, which is, for the most part, been pretty darn good. We had a pretty bad meltdown in our last loss by Jonathan Loaizaga, but what's really been impressive is that the back end with
Chapman?
Thank you. Aroldis Chapman has been phenomenal this year. Like better than maybe he's been as a Yankee. He's just getting a ton of strikeouts. He's averaging like 2 point something an inning that he's thrown. It's ridiculous. So I've been really impressed with the back end of the bullpen and with the pitching as a whole recently. had a really good start yesterday by Jordan Montgomery. Garrett Cole's off to a good start in today's game. Speaking of relocation, though, just a quick aside, baseball needs to get the hell out of the Trop. We had another ridiculous situation in today's game already where a ball hit the catwalk and landed in fair territory. You should not be playing baseball in a stadium where the ball can hit the roof.
Slander on this show.
We should not be playing baseball in any location where the ball can hit a roof. It's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on.
No, the Trop is a wonderful place to watch a game. It's air conditioned in there, perfect weather.
Every indoor facility can be air conditioned. You don't need to have it so that the ball can hit the catwalk. Why are they even catwalks in there? What is the purpose of these catwalks?
It's for structural stability of the roof. I wouldn't have picked that roof design personally, but it keeps the roof together. When you have a dome, you have to have tension to keep it from sort of oozing out.
Well, they need a new roof because this is ridiculous. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. And
go to a game at the Trop and then bash it, then come back to me.
I heard the staff is wonderful too. Like they're super friendly.
Yeah, everybody's so happy to be there. The whole place is on vacation all the time.
Why? The place is so ugly. It's like it's now the ugliest indoor venue in baseball ever since the Twins left whatever the name of their old stadium was.
Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome.
Yes, that was an ugly
the Vikings
stadium.
played too.
Ugh.
The Hoperdome. It doesn't matter if it's ugly on the outside. Yeah, it's ugly on the outside.
It's ugly on the inside is what I'm saying.
It's great on the
inside.
It's sneaky cold in there. It's freezing.
Okay. I will always enjoy Evan standing for Tropicana Field because it is universally panned as a dump of a stadium, and
yet somehow Evan loves it.
Have never been there.
I have never been there, but I have noticed when I watch on TV, I was like, that seems like a nice, cozy little place to watch a game. It's not very attractive, but it looks like it could be a good time if there's, whatever. Yeah.
Good place to watch a game.
Yeah, just show up in my sweatpants and nice air-conditioned dome and watch some baseball inside. I've never watched baseball inside before.
Yeah, while we were in there, there was a torrential downpour. And did the game stop? No, it didn't.
Anyway, so the Yankees have been playing really well lately, which is great. I've been happy about that. But the bit of news that's actually more interesting is that Luis Severino was supposed to pitch a live BP session today, but that was scratched because of some back tightness, and so they've rescheduled it for tomorrow. Hopefully, this is not a multi-day issue, and he will be able to pitch tomorrow, and we can start figuring out when he may be able to pitch a minor league game or two and start working his way back to the major league roster. I mean, it'd be nice if he could be back with us sometime in June. I've heard anywhere from mid-June to mid-July is kind of a timetable for when the team expects for him to return. If that could happen even a week or two ahead of schedule, it'd be great because we could definitely. I mean, our pitching has been pretty good on the whole. We're like third or fourth in ERA. I think we might actually be first in WHIP, walks plus hits per inning, for those of our listeners who don't know that phrase. But having him back in the lineup would be a huge addition for us because the back end of our starting rotation is not great.
No, I mean, you want Jorge Lopez or somebody? Sure, he's available.
No, but I do want
Dean
Kramer gone still. I do still want him gone.
Didn't Norris get Dean Kramer from the Yankees? Or was he in the Machado deal from the Dodgers?
I don't know.
If he came from us, he came from our minor league system because he's never been on the major league roster for us.
I mean, I wish we had Dustin May, although he's on the shelf.
He had surgery last night.
Yes, he did. That's a shame, but still, he's better than any of the other pitchers we got
in
the Manny deal. But
Matt Harvey was terrible today.
Yeah, not a great start for him today. But DL Hall pitched well yesterday.
Oh, my goodness, DL Hall.
Ooh. Looking forward to seeing him at the show sometime relatively soon.
Y'all could have gone to the game.
I could have. I could have, but I got my second shot on Monday, so I was like, I'm not gonna risk going to a game if I potentially don't feel well. So I
No, okay.
decided not to. Although I was actually surprisingly okay yesterday. We'll move on to horse racing because we talked so much about the Kentucky Derby on account of the fact that none of us actually watched it. So
Not even Evan.
Yeah, Corey and I had an excuse. We were at a bachelor party, busy.
Well, Evan had an
I was
excuse. He was at an amusement
I
park.
was at Dollywood that day.
But
Okay, there you go.
I was
All
still
three of us had an
surprised that
excuse.
Evan didn't catch a replay of it.
Doesn't
The
matter.
weather was beautiful at Dollywood. Highly recommend Dollywood.
I've been
Yeah.
there. It's a nice theme park.
So Medina Spirit got busted, supposedly having PEDs in its system, which is just we're giving steroids to horses.
Oh, so it was a cream that I guess was used to treat. It's often used to treat horses, I guess, for ailments. But
I looked up Bob Baffert's statement.
I guess the type of cream, the specific one they used, has a banned substance.
Yes. So in his statement, he said, following the Santa Anita Derby, Medina Spirit developed dermatitis on his hind end. I had him checked out by my veterinarian who recommended the use of an antifungal ointment called Otomax. Yada, yada, yada. So this is where he thinks the banned substance came from. So just what a statement that is. Developed dermatitis on his hind end.
This is.
Well, I figure
Correct
that
me.
probably is not a particularly uncommon thing, but like you have to be aware of any ingredients that are in these topical ointments that you might use, like because topical steroids are still illegal. Just because they're not being injected doesn't mean that they're suddenly allowed. So the interesting thing though in all of this is Bob Baffert went on Fox News earlier this week talking about this is all cancel culture. It's like, no, your horse got busted.
You were caught cheating
for steroids. Like, that's not anybody canceling the horse. That's you cheated. You're not allowed to do that. That's illegal.
Guess who's running in the Preakness this weekend?
So then
Medina Spirit. So, cancel culture.
Right. And then he appeared on ESPN after that Fox News appearance and was trying to say that the drug that was found was both legal and was never used on his horse. So he's trying to cover both ends. He's like, well, it's legal, so we shouldn't be in trouble anyway, but also it wasn't even on the horse, so we shouldn't be in trouble that way either. Like, dude, like...
And then he also said that one of his assistants in the barn had a cold and was taking cold medicine. And the assistant had to pee, so just peed in the barn in some hay, and then the horse ate the hay, and that's how the banned substance. I'm like, what are you even talking about, Bob Baffert? So and then after that, he says he's going to do an internal investigation, and he's like, oh, well, there's this ointment we put on the horse's butt, and that's how we got the... Like, oh boy. So it's been around the world with Bob Baffert this week.
I didn't even know all that part. That, oh my God, that just adds a whole nother just level of ludicrosity. I don't even know if that's a word.
I'm writing it down because I'm pretty sure it's ludicrousness, but that's going in the title. That's probably going to be it, by the way.
But like my thoughts on this are, I'm fine with Medina Spirit running at Preakness because, give them due process, rerun the test on the sample that you collected, make sure that there weren't any mistakes processing that sample. If it turns out that the steroid was not actually in the horse's system and this was a false positive or something, because they're talking about like 21 picograms, which I don't really have a good understanding of like how much of those trace amounts is enough to actually make a difference and why substances in that small an amount are illegal. But doesn't matter whether I understand it or not because it is illegal. That's just a fact of life in this sport. But if this was a false positive, then Medina Spirit gets to keep the title from the Kentucky Derby. It'll have gotten to run Preakness, so it won't have been, held out unfairly. If it turns out that the second test comes back positive, then Medina Spirit will be stripped of the Kentucky Derby win. I would imagine that they'd be testing the horse at Preakness, and if anything comes back with that, any result it gets would be nullified. But the bigger thing here is that I don't understand how Bob Baffert is going to come out here and try and say that he's being canceled or his horse is being canceled by the general public and by public perception following this or anything like that, because this is not the first issue that Bob Baffert has had with his horses testing positive for banned substances and other shady dealings within horse racing. And he's out here trying to talk about he's the face of horse racing, which may be the case. I don't really follow horse racing. Maybe he is. Maybe all of his horses forever have been super successful, and he's had lots of them who have not gotten in trouble for banned substances and this and that and the other. But the bottom line is, you've gotten in trouble before. You've been down this road before. You should know that eyes are going to be on you, that your horses are going to be tested. This should not come as a surprise. This is not cancel culture. This is consequences for actions.
Well, that's what cancel culture is, right? People
yes.
claiming they got canceled. Like, well, you said or did something really stupid or rude or illegal, and now you're claiming you got canceled. No, you're going to jail. I'm dumb. You're not canceled. You're going to prison.
Going to horsey prison.
Imagine if you're a little kid, right, and you do something, whatever, and you get punished. You're like, no, this is cancel culture. What? What are you even talking about? So I looked it up. Pico is the prefix for 10 to the negative 12th power.
Yeah, so this is like, is that trillionths or quadrillionths of a gram?
I would say trillionths of a gram, yes. So 21 trillionths of a gram of something or other. All right.
Okay, so a couple more thoughts. I did look it up, Corey. Ludicrosity is in fact a word, so you're off the hook there.
Yes, nice.
And the thing is, it's funny because ludicrosity is defined as being ludicrousness. So why the hell does this word exist when there's already a word for it? I mean, whatever. Doesn't matter, but it. Nevertheless, it is a word.
Wait, this is like in Merriam-Webster, not on Urban Dictionary, right?
No, not Urban Dictionary.
Okay.
It was Merriam-Webster. It was the real deal.
Nice.
I would not use Urban Dictionary for this unless I was trying to be humorous. I mean, it sort of is humorous. Another thing, the behind dermatitis reminds me a little bit of Dwight Howard with his busted can, his sore buttocks that he missed game after game for. I was like, what?
He needs some of that topical ointment.
Yeah, let's not even go there. My goodness. Oh, man. So let's move on to the NFL. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we've got a little bit of leakage regarding the NFL schedule.
And as of actually about 8 minutes ago, the full schedule has been released if you're listening to us live.
Okay, well, we'll talk about some of the highlights we've seen. Namely, there's no Week 1 Monday Night Football doubleheader, so I'm a little disappointed by that because that's just something I'd stay up and watch like an idiot and just be like, hey.
Single header featuring the Ravens at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, well, excellent. That'll be should be a good game. I mean, I know that the Ravens should win based off of what we think about the Ravens
by like 5 points or something.
Yeah, I mean this is great news for Evan because now he can. I mean he probably would have paid full attention to the Ravens anyway, but there's no reason to worry about what's going on in another game because there is no other game going on.
Week 1 is shaping up to be the best Red Zone Sunday ever. I will not be getting up for 1 second for 7 hours of commercial-free football.
Well, and that's the other nice thing is that for you, the Ravens playing on Monday night, when they play on Sunday, you don't watch Red Zone during the Ravens game. You're just watching the Ravens. Now you actually get to enjoy all 7 hours of commercial-free football in Week 1. Plus, you get to watch, the Thursday night opener. You get to watch Sunday Night Football, and you get to watch your Ravens on Monday night. This isn't really that upsetting to me. I'm okay with not having the doubleheader. I was more a little bit confused about it because some of the a lot of the announcements that came out of the restructured television deal this offseason seemed to suggest that we were going to have more Monday night doubleheaders. We had obviously we had a couple of, we had some Tuesday and Wednesday even games this past year because of all the COVID postponements. Fortunately, we didn't actually have any cancellations. The only game that got canceled ended up just being pushed back because the two teams, they were able to work out things with bye weeks. But we also had a handful of Monday night doubleheaders outside of week one because of COVID postponements. And they were pretty successful from a rating standpoint. People seemed to kind of enjoy that. Having a couple of games to be able to tune into, especially because a lot of times Monday night games aren't really great matchups. And so it was nice to have a second matchup. It increased the odds that at least one of them would be a good game. So there had been talk about having an increased number of Monday night doubleheaders, plus the ability to flex games to Monday night in the future. So we'll see what happens, I guess, this season. I haven't seen the whole schedule. They literally just released the whole schedule week by week, and I haven't got a chance to look at it. So I'll be curious to see if there are any Monday night doubleheaders on the schedule, but we know that there won't be one in week one.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Roger Goodell first took over and they were trying to expand the Thursday night games and stuff, and Roger Goodell kept saying his little slogan was more football for more fans. And, with that as your reasoning, it seemed like you'd have a Monday night doubleheader every week, right? If you want to bring more football to more fans, that means more games on national TV, please. So not only Monday night, but Tuesday night and Thursday night and Saturday night, and every night is football night, by that rationale. But that doesn't seem to be what they're doing with this. Let's see. I've got the Monday night schedule pulled up. I don't want to read the whole thing, but
do you notice any doubleheaders?
Like 1, 2. Yeah, there shouldn't be any doubleheaders in here.
Okay.
We have Bills at Titans. Oh boy. Why are the Giants on here? The Giants have 2 Monday night games.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ugh.
I'm telling you, man, they can't stop putting the Giants in prime time.
There's a week 17. Oh,
well, yeah, because there are 18 weeks now, yeah. But
okay.
Again, hopefully they will be flexing some of those Monday night games going forward. It sounds like they've included the ability to do that later in season, similar to the way that Sunday night games get flexed. So
I think what they should do is I feel like you can't really flex Thursday and Monday games without a lot of extra effort.
Well,
it's certainly doable, but it'd be harder than a Sunday.
It also is problematic just from a rest standpoint.
Oh, well, the NFL doesn't care about player safety. They've made that abundantly clear. But I feel like they should do college football, and the schedule comes out, but the kickoff times aren't announced till the week of, based on which game looks like the best game. So, you have all the East Coast games at 1, all the West Coast games at 4, or 4:25, and then NBC gets to pick from the slate, whichever one they want. I'm sure NBC would pay double whatever they're paying the NFL to get to do that.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, never know. So some other highlights from week one, at least. The Cowboys and the Buccaneers will be facing off the Thursday night to open the season. This seems pretty much like it's the Dallas Cowboys. Got to put them on TV, right? Versus an actual.
Well, Dak Prescott coming back from injury. Good opportunity to see if the Cowboys address some of their defensive woes from last season.
They didn't.
Spoiler alert.
The Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have not earned the clout to be in this game. The only reason they're there is because they're the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. Any other team, you slap a different logo on their helmet, and they're not participating in this game after the season they just had. No way, no how.
I've heard people joke about how the Cowboys logo is is a rating of 1 star.
That's the lone star.
Yeah, I think this gives us a chance to, ironically say, how about them Cowboys? Real early in the season when they get waxed by Tampa Bay. Tom Brady against one of the worst defenses ever. They're going to be carved like a rotisserie chicken, just completely and utterly demolished.
Seems highly likely that that's going to happen, at least from my view. So our teams, as Corey mentioned, the Raiders will host the Ravens in Week 1 on Monday Night Football. So is that going to be Baltimore's first trip to the Death Star, Evan?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, they didn't play there last year. And the team will play host in their dump of a stadium to the Los Angeles Superchargers, who that game actually figures to be pretty interesting because Washington still has a great defense and the Chargers have an excellent young quarterback. So
y'all should go.
No,
I'm gonna watch 7 hours of commercial-free football with Scott Hansen.
Oh, that little detail, yeah.
Yeah, that little detail. Plus, as I mentioned, the other little detail that FedEx Field is a dump, and I am not going to spend money to patronize it. No way.
Thank you.
Is Washington playing at Atlanta this year? Because the Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a red zone bar in it.
I think they do play the South.
I know they play this. I know they play the Falcons. I don't remember if they're playing.
Yeah, I can't remember if they're at home or not.
Yeah, I also don't know if we play at the Death Star or at home against the Raiders this season.
I think that Falcons game is in Atlanta though, just based off of. I seem to recall the team played Atlanta in 2015, and it's one of those years. So they probably play them at home in 2018, which means they're probably playing them in Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year. That's my feeling. I'd have to look it up to verify, though.
Could be.
So, other NFL news, one last little tidbit. Davante Adams made headlines, I guess, by saying the most obvious thing in the world, that he could reconsider his future in Green Bay if Aaron Rodgers leaves town. Duh.
Yeah, duh, but also this should only make it more clear to the Packers that they need to say bye-bye to their general manager because, I mean, he's the reason that Aaron Rodgers wants to leave. If you're deciding between your general manager and the MVP of the league, and hey, you'll also probably lose your top wide receiver if you lose that MVP, is this not a no-brainer?
I think it is a no-brainer. Speaking of no-brainers, Washington football team at Atlanta Falcons Week 4 at 1:00.
Okay, there you go.
I'm sure there will be plenty of tickets available. So you can watch Red Zone, and you can drink.
If I'm gonna go to a stadium, I'm gonna sit in the seat, drink beer, and watch the game that's happening on the field, not sit in front of
watch it on TV
bar
too.
watching Red Zone when I could just do that at home and save some money.
They also have the 100 yards bar, which is, just the concourse, but with field markings in there. What are we even talking about?
We were on Davante Adams.
Right, and you just completely went back to Washington and then Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, the Packers seem to be screwing this up as much as they possibly can on purpose, right? Like you draft Jordan Love, who apparently isn't any good.
They're signing Blake Bortles today.
They signed Blake Bortles.
Woo-wee. That'll fix it.
Yeah. So come on, Packers. If you're as committed to Aaron Rodgers as you say you are, then act like it. Kind of reminds me of Survivor when people say all the right stuff, but then when it comes time to vote, they don't vote how they said they were going to vote. And what really matters is your actions you put down on paper, whether it be on Survivor with the votes or in football with your roster decisions. The Packers have said loud and clear. We were on live last year when they said it, that they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers sooner than Aaron Rodgers would like. So what else is there to say?
Well, now,
Yeah.
there is one other signing from this past week that we haven't talked about yet, in addition to the Blake Bortles signing. And, we've been going for about an hour and a quarter now. So we can get to our 2 hours that we normally go. I say we use the next 45 minutes to talk about Tim Tebow to the Jaguars.
Oh, my
I
God.
left this off the list specifically because I don't want to talk about that loser. Why did you have to put us in the mix for this clown that just begs for attention? I just didn't want to talk about him, and you just had to go there. My goodness. Thank you, Corey.
You're welcome.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
I don't actually want to talk about it. Like that.
I don't either. So we're gonna move on.
I've got the Thanksgiving games.
Oh yeah, what are the Thanksgiving games?
Chicago Bears at Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Las Vegas Raiders at Dallas Cowboys.
All right.
Buffalo Bills at New Orleans Saints.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
The funny thing is we don't really even know what the Saints are going to look like this year, just because can Jameis Winston play in this system? Because, I mean, you'd think logically he might be able to, but he's also the same guy that threw 30 interceptions. So.
And will Jameis actually be the starter, or will it be good Tim Tebow?
Oh, God.
Or will it be, yeah. I mean, you get to see Taysom Hill, and then you get to see on the other side, for Buffalo, Taysom Hill if he was actually a good quarterback.
Yeah. Jeez. But that should still be a fun game, nevertheless. I'm actually kind of excited for the Saints this year just because, the roster is still really good. It's just that the quarterback situation went from being one of the most stable ever to being a total mystery. So I still think the Saints should compete in games. It's just a matter of, are they going to be good enough to compete for a playoff spot? That pretty much entirely depends on how well Jameis and or Taysom Hill play. So,
I mean, the Saints are defending division champs, right?
Yeah, 4 times over. First time that's ever happened.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, the Saints should be good. I don't see them competing with Tampa Bay to win the division.
Probably not. You wouldn't think that they'd be on that level because the quarterback situation's not built for it.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's quarterback is even older than Drew Brees. So
yes, but he's still good somehow. So anyway, back to Devontae Adams real quick though, because I just had a thought about that. They signed Jordan Love. They draft Jordan Love. They trade up to get him, and he sucks, right? Like they said he's got a long way to go before he's ready to play.
Why did you draft him?
Which means he sucks.
Yeah.
Like that's the same crap that John Elway said about Paxton Lynch.
Yes.
And where is he?
Out
he's
of
gone.
the league.
Long gone. So it looks like that was a terrible decision. That's the type of decision that gets you fired as a GM. You shouldn't even have to ask Aaron Rodgers whether or not he wants this guy fired. He shouldn't even have to demand it. He made a huge mistake that set your franchise back by drafting a bum to replace a Hall of Famer because he thought the Hall of Famer was all done. And he wasn't. So you made a big gamble. It didn't pay off. There's the door. That should be how this is. It shouldn't matter that Aaron Rodgers is wanting you to push a button on him. The fact that he is should incentivize you to do it even more. But you should have already canned him just for being incompetent.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, you screwed up and now you're trying to cover up your screw up by screwing up some more.
It feels like there's a level of resentment in that organization for Aaron Rodgers because this is not the way a team normally behaves when they have a Hall of Fame quarterback where they seem like they're just desperate to get rid of him until he ended up being good and they realized, crap, we can't.
Well, this is how the Packers behaved with their previous Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, but they gave Favre a lot more run, and he was slipping a lot more and was contemplating retirement the year they drafted Aaron Rodgers. Favre watch started as early as 2005. So it wasn't like Brett Favre was out there saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to play till I'm 41. He was saying, I might hang it up. So they were like, okay, well. And then Aaron Rodgers, who was projected to be the number one pick in the draft, falls to you. It felt like the Packers almost had to take him as a succession plan because we've got a quarterback who's being flaky, and this guy somehow fell in our laps. Jordan Love didn't even deserve a first-round grade. And the Packers
traded up for him.
Yes, the Packers went out of their way to acquire him. It was very much we're getting rid of you. This is the guy we're replacing you.
Yeah, these two situations are not comparable.
Yeah, not the same situation at all. But it's definitely, I've always felt like the Packers being this, pretentious Midwestern team. We're blue collar and all this crap that doesn't matter.
The fans own the team.
Yeah, we don't have a team owner. We're owned by the city. Congratulations. And the quarterback is from California, and he's doing commercials. He's on TV and stuff. He's very Hollywood.
He's hosting Jeopardy.
He's hosting Jeopardy for kicks. I mean, he's dating celebrities all over the place, which, again, not a knock on Aaron Rodgers. It's just a completely different vibe than Green Bay probably likes. And I feel like that's translated into some level of resentment for this guy who has done nothing but been excellent for them.
I mean, yeah, he's... Why would you want to get rid of Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he'd been he hadn't been deteriorating, but certainly he's getting up there in age football-wise. He'd been declining a little bit, and he had some injuries. But, kicking Aaron Rodgers out the door before he says, I'm ready to leave, seems like a poor decision.
Especially coming off an MVP season. It'd be completely foolish.
Well, I mean, it was less foolish a year ago, but it's real foolish now.
Yeah, I think they were hoping to see a continued level of drop-off from Aaron that we had seen kind of dating back to 2015, where his last MVP that he won was in 2014, and then he had a very down year in 2015, wasn't having a great year in 2016 until they got hot and ran the table, and then the next couple years after that, next 3 years actually, didn't look so great. They were kind of hoping that trend would continue, and instead Aaron said, hey, I'm still amazing here.
He had a pretty darn good fantasy season in 2016.
Sure, and I'm not saying he didn't have a good year, but it was more based off of one really, really good stretch, but that was sort of an outlier among that 5-year stretch, where the rest of the time he was pretty good but not great. And when your star quarterback looks pretty good but not great, it's a lot easier to get the fan base on board to say, hey, this guy's not what he used to be.
And he's getting old.
On. But then the Packers gave him an extension. Right? So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth.
I can't make heads or tails out of what the Packers are doing, but it's all nonsense, and the GM needs to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
The end.
You can't screw up this bad.
But I will say he's not Jerry Krause, because Jerry Krause won rings. He won 6 of them. He was actually really good at his job before he made a controversial and now infamous decision to break up the Bulls. But prior to that, he was great at what he did. Brian Gutekunst, or however you pronounce his name.
I think that's right, actually.
Yeah, that's not him. He doesn't have that kind of clout. Not even close.
I mean, he's not Ron Wolf or even Ted Thompson or whoever else they had up there.
Now, Ted Thompson won them a title.
Yeah. And Ron Wolf in the Hall of Fame? What's Brian Gutekunst done in his career? Why is his name so funny?
It's just like, I don't know. When I first heard it on TV, I was like, that can't be for real, right? It's for real. It's real and it's spectacular.
They're not booing you. They're just calling Gutekunst.
And they're also booing because you suck at your job.
Yeah, you're trying to get rid of the Hall of Fame quarterback and his favorite receiver for Jordan Love and, somebody. Jordan Love's the only first-round pick the Packers have made on offense in the last 10 drafts.
And it was for a position that you guys have filled by one of the best ever.
Who played 0 snaps for a team that hosted.
Didn't even suit up.
Yeah, he didn't even dress. Played as many games as us.
Yes,
that's how much he helped the Packers.
Wore his game day jersey as many times as we did.
Yeah,
I mean, my goodness. So that's all we've got for topics today. Before we get to shout-outs and sign off, I just wanted to say condolences and rest in peace to Colt Brennan, who tragically passed away this week. Colt Brennan played quarterback at Hawaii. He was a marvel in college, and he spent a good few years on the Washington football team's roster as a regular third-string guy playing in the preseason. And he was always really good in the preseason. In fact, he got us to get fired up and say, maybe this guy should start. Of course, understanding that he was going up against fellow third stringers. But He was fun to watch. He threw the ball sidearm. He wore a visor.
It was his single-season touchdown record that Joe Burrow broke.
Yes. So he had a great career, and it's a shame that he's gone so soon.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to give him a shout-out and say rest in peace to him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really sad situation. Really sad situation all around. Definitely encourage anybody who's. I don't want to necessarily recap everything. It's just, but it's really sad. Just from the accident that he had, the car accident he had back in 2010, and some close friends have suggested that they don't think he ever really was the same after that, and it just kind of led to one thing after another. And he was trying to get into a rehab facility recently. In fact, I think the day before he died, he'd been trying to get into a rehab facility and was turned away because they had no beds available. So really sad situation all around.
Okay, you guys have anybody else you want to give a little love to before we get out of here?
No,
I don't think I have any shout-outs this week.
Okay, well then I guess I'll sing us home here. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. All 3 or 4 or 6 or maybe even 20 of you. I don't know how many people listen. Corey can give us those numbers. But if you want to send us some questions or some feedback, you can email us at thesportsballers@gmail.com. Any questions or ideas or thoughts, we will read on the show and discuss. So you can participate in our podcast if you so desire. You can also find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, anywhere they got it. We produce it. And if you're tuning in, you obviously found a source, so just keep going there. You can also follow us on our Twitter page at SportsBallers18. You can follow us individually as well. Corey is at Corey Puffett. Evan is at Evan_Ash13. And I am at Quagmire67. We'll be back next week. Like I mentioned before, we'll have a little bit of NBA playoff preview, some more NFL news that I'm sure will pop up, most likely talking about Aaron Rodgers again, because that seems to be the trend, and whatever baseball shenanigans pop up as well. So until then, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week.